Hello, my creative friends. I'm Heather North from heatherscreativeblessings.com. I have 3 cards to share with you today, all using the same rock and roll technique, and starting with a stitched rectangle die. I cut it out of Whisper White cardstock. This die is from the Stamp of Approval Young at Heart collection, but other companies do carry a stitched rectangle, and now that that's sold out, I will look for some more to link with for you down below. There's a little peek at the other 2 cards that I made. I'll share them again at the end of this video. Plus, I'll have pictures up on my blog so you can get a close-up look of these. Okay, so I started with this stamp set from My Favorite Things. It's called Pretty Poppies. My friend and fellow Stamp Nation design team member, Allison Cope, Allie, sent them to me. So thank you, Allie. I am loving this stamp set. I started out with some pumpkin pie ink from Stampin' Up, and I just inked up my stamp. And then I'm going to roll it in the Watermelon Wonder ink. And it just gets a little bit of that reddish pink color on the outside edge of the poppy. I grew up in California, and so the golden poppy is our state flower. I was going for an orange color, and it did turn out a little deeper red than I planned on. But since I got good blending, I was happy and excited. So I did one of the flowers facing upwards and to the left, and now I'm going to grab another flower in this set, and I'm going to stamp it in the opposite direction, so like the stamp is going to the right. Same technique. I first ink it up in some pumpkin pie ink, and then I roll it in the red, and I didn't roll it all the way around, as you can see, but I did selectively add a little bit to the tip. And you see here me using a wet wipe to wipe up my clear block. This is because I tend to accidentally rock my my stamp block a little too much, and I get ink on my project when I don't mean to. So I just find it easier to clean it up before I try and start stamping down. So next I'm going to take some of the stems. I think there's at least 2, maybe 3 different stems in the stamp set, which I really like. And they can kind of intertwine with each other. So I'm just going to grab one here for the left hand side, and then I'm going to grab a different one for the right one. I'm also going to bend that next stamp just a little bit so that it goes just a little more curvy. I want it to intertwine with the one on the left. I love that you can do that with photopolymer stamps. You can kind of bend them where you want them to go. Isn't that pretty? And it does remind me how the poppies grow in nature. Next, I'm going to take this long scripty, I don't know that you would call it a sentiment, but quote maybe? I don't know what to call this thing, but I love it and I've been using it a lot, and it's a great way to kind of ground my image. So I'm going to take some smoky slate ink, it's a light gray ink, and I'm just going to ink up that sentiment. I use my Fisker stamp press to pick it up. I like using this when I've got longer stamps. Sorry about my head. Yeah, I couldn't see, and I wanted to make sure it was lined up with the bottom of my die cut, and that really grounds that image. I decided to add some color to the center of the poppy on this card, and I was just experimenting, and I found that my finger worked well. You could use a dauber, but I just stuck my finger in the ink, rolled it onto my craft paper, and then I am just lightly tapping the center of that flower. This gives it a lighter shade it's that pumpkin pie ink, just a lighter shade of the ink that's already there. And of course I had ink on my pinky finger that stuck to the card. And I tried to fix it, there you see, with a water brush. It didn't really work. And then I thought, oh, you know what? The stamp set comes with leaves. Did I mention that these cards were my first ones made with this new stamp set? It is. I know. Can't tell, can you? Anyways, I realized there were leaves, and I could use the leaves to cover up my boo-boos. Each of these cards are a little bit different, partly because I tend to get bored easily and I make them different each time, and partly because I have different mistakes to cover with each card. Oh my goodness. So in order to make this a little more balanced, I stamped, they've got leaves going in different directions, so I stamped one going up and to the left, and this one's going up and to the right at the bottom of my card. And after I stamped those, I was like, oh, I love these leaves. I should have added them to all of the cards. With the other two cards, I stamped the sentiment in the very bottom on top of that longer scripty sentiment. And with this one, I decided to stamp it up at the top in the flowers. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I'm using this gray diagonal stripe paper from My Favorite Things. I don't remember the name, but I'll link it down below. I just love this paper. I wonder if they sell it separately. I'm going to have to look into that because it's a nice, subtle background that really lets my stamped images shine. For this card, I think I cut it 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I'm not sure. It's got a little bit wider border than this first card I made. See that this one is, I think, 4 by 5 1/4, and I have the sentiment down below. And then this last one, I just did a banner with the piece that was left over. And you'll see that this is more of a square shape than a rectangle. That's because I inked up the top and couldn't erase it. What I did was I took that stitch rectangle and I lined it up. I'm showing you kind of here what I did. I lined it up just a little bit lower and I die cut it again and just cut the top off. And because it has that stitching, the stitches kind of sink into the die cut and you can align it perfectly. It was really easy to do. In the bottom right hand corner, another boo-boo I covered up with the little tiny bud. So here are all 3 cards. A little bit of mistakes, but turned into 3 different beautiful cards that I think would make a nice little set to give to a teacher or a friend as a little gift. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this card, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from me, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope that you find some time today to get a little bit creative. Bye!